Yeah, hi folks. Now, before we get started today, I would just like to say Happy Mother's Day to our dear leader. Oh, damn it. Sorry, Jacinda. I should have said Happy Birthing Person Day because that doesn't offend. And by the way, Jacinda, I hope you are a breastfeeding person because breastfeeding is good for babies. Oh, damn it again. Sorry, Jacinda. I should have said chest feeding because that also purportedly doesn't offend. But seriously, folks, do these woke, speech-destroying, birthing people even know we're at the brink of war with communist China?
It is perhaps the world's most dangerous flashpoint. An island already determined to defend itself that could bring the US and China to war. China says the island is part of its territory and has vowed to take it by force if necessary. An uneasy status quo that has lasted 70 years looks more difficult by the day. In an exclusive interview with Sky News, Taiwan's foreign minister said he feared the worst.
They have been conducting disinformation campaign, hybrid warfare, and recently they have increased their gray zone activities against Taiwan. And all these seem to be preparing for their final military assault against Taiwan.
Could Taiwan defend itself under those circumstances when China is such a big power?
This is our country, this is our people, and this is our way of life. And we will defend ourselves to the very end. And I should also point out that Taiwan happens to be on the front line in China's expansion of its authoritarian order. And if Taiwan is taken by China, I think the consequences will be global.
Yeah, exactly. Taiwan will be first, and then they'll come straight down here to a defenceless New Zealand and Australia.
But China insists that the issue of Taiwan is purely an internal affair.
恪守一个中国原则是中澳关系的应有之义。台湾是中国领土不可分割的一部分。台湾问题纯属中国内部事务，涉及中国核心利益，不容任何外部势力插手干预。
This is Taiwan's declared air defense identification zone. And this is where Chinese jets have been flying just in the month of April. Twice in the same month, China has also sent an aircraft carrier to the other side of Taiwan, surrounding the island, according to mainland state media. In response, the US Navy has been carrying out freedom of navigation exercises through the Taiwan Strait, water that the UK's own aircraft carrier will avoid on its maiden voyage this summer.
For the UK to think about sending military aircraft, military surface ships to this part of the world to show that the UK cares is also welcomed in this part of the world.
France, Germany and Canada are also sending military ships to the region.
Yeah, and what is New Zealand sending? Oh yes, Mahuta's kind words.
The chances of a war involving Australia and China are only rising, according to former Defence Minister Chris Pyne.
Not a cyber war, but a real one, involving loss of life, destruction of military platforms, with aggressors and defenders on different sides. This isn't rhetoric. This is something that you and I may well have to confront in the next 5 to 10 years.
Pyne's comments come at an increasingly tense time in the region. US officials and their allies are now openly viewing Taiwan as the next conflict flashpoint.
And we will fight the war if we need to fight the war. And if we need to, to defend ourselves to the very last day, we will defend ourselves to the very last day.
Those comments come after China continues to flex its military muscle, sending fighter jets and military drones into Taiwan's air defense zone.
This kind of activity is called grey zone operations. They don't constitute a breach of international law. They're not an act of war, but they instigate fear in Taiwan society because they remind the country that this standing threat China has had to invade if Taiwan doesn't toe the line, that this threat might actually be real.
Conflict in Taiwan would be difficult for Australia to stay out of and would surely lead to US intervention.
Yeah, they may help Australia, but I'm not so sure about New Zealand, given Mahuta's recent comments about the Five Eyes partnership.
China's expanding military arsenal is only increasing tension as the nation shows no sign of slowing down its production of its Navy fleet, Air Force and missile stockpile.
They've quadrupled their nuclear capability since the turn of the century, and they will at least double it during the course of this decade.
Because against China's 2 million strong military, 2 million, what have we got? 60,000.
Yeah, but don't worry, Andrew. New Zealand's got another 9,000.
Let me tell you how pathetic that is. Taiwan has a slightly smaller population than us. It has 5 times more people in its armed forces and a lot more advanced weapons. Now, I've got to give 10 out of 10 to the Morrison government for calling out the China threat. It's been very good on this. But years of complacency are now catching up with us. You don't build a big new military overnight.
Yeah, but don't worry, Andrew. We now say birthing people and chest feeding.
The war has suddenly got a lot more threatening, and time is running out for us to get enough teeth to bite back hard. Now, that's why Foreign Minister Maurice Payne is now flying overseas for 2 weeks to the US and Europe to push for mutual security of all the democracies against China. All the democracies have got to stand together or they will fall separately.
Yeah, and finally, this seems to be penetrating our dear leader's thick skull.
Career suicide, or is little New Zealand standing up to trading giant China going to spark a revolution? Smaller Asian nations are closely watching as Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern makes a major policy shift that could make things a little messy.
When it was time to condemn China's crackdown on the democracy movement in Hong Kong and its treatment of its minority Muslim population in Xinjiang, New Zealand has been reluctant to sign up to statements from its Five Eyes alliance partners. The centre-left government...
Centre-left government? Far-left government, or very far-left government, you mean?
even suggested its partners were not showing enough respect for China, New Zealand's biggest trading partner, and urged Australia to be more cautious in their wording when dealing with the Chinese government. This prompted an outcry from their allies. Now, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern is making what looks like a significant U-turn.
And it will not have escaped the attention of anyone here that as China's role in the world grows and changes, the differences between our systems and the interests and values that shape those systems are becoming harder to reconcile.
Yeah, anyway, let's look at a bit more from that China summit.
China has told the Prime Minister to mind her own business after she repeatedly raised human rights concerns today. But Jacinda Ardern says the differences between the two countries are becoming harder to reconcile. Here's political reporter Benedict Collins.
Yeah, and who's at this China summit? John Key, the traitor who sold New Zealand out to communist China. And who's he sitting next to? You look here, Helen Clark. Yes, the globalist UN hacks stick together.
The high-powered China Business Summit in Auckland, the focus just as much on human rights as trade.
We've commented publicly about our grave concerns regarding the human rights situation of the Uyghurs in Xinjiang.
The so-called forced labor or genocide in Xinjiang are totally lies and rumors fabricated by some anti-China forces without any evidence.
Without any evidence, she says. Well, Brooke Van Velden from the ACT Party thinks otherwise, and hat tip to Rich for this one.
Genocide does not require a war. It does not need to be sudden. It can be slow and deliberate, and that is what is happening here. New Zealand and China both signed the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide in 1949. It gives an internationally agreed definition of genocide. Any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group as such. A. Killing members of the group. B. Causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. C. Deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. D. Imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. E. Forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. Not one, but each of these are occurring in Xinjiang, according to multiple sources. To take one example, there has been a mass imposition of contraceptive devices upon Uyghur women and forced sterilization.
Yes, when it comes to the Muslims in China, Jacinda won't even allow the word genocide to be debated. But when it came to the Muslims in Christchurch, she's quite happy to take away everyone's guns and their free speech.
Matched by an enormous reduction in fertility rates in Xinjiang. The parliaments of Canada, the United Kingdom, and the Netherlands have all passed motions condemning the Chinese Communist Party for genocide. The United States federal government has done so twice, once under President Trump and again under President Biden. Not many things can unite those two. Some will say that the convention requires a competent court to decide what is and is not a genocide. That is a principle I would normally agree with, but let's be honest. The perpetrator of a genocide is not going to submit to a court hearing. Our conscience demands that if we believe there is a genocide, we should say so. Finally, we must consider the geopolitical and trade implications of this situation. There will be some who say it is irresponsible to bring this motion. The ACT Party believes it would be irresponsible not to. New Zealand plays an important role in the global community. The world is now looking to us to see what standard we are going to set. Can the CCP play us off as the weakest link in the Western alliance? Will we abandon our longest-standing ally across the ditch if enough carrot and stick is applied? We may face the threat of loss for speaking our mind, but we face a much greater danger if we don't.
Exactly. Here, now folks, I've posted a link to Brooke's entire speech in the description below. It's well worth watching.